Every scary story always has a real context, and horror movies are no exception. And no story is darker, more touching, and twisted than that of a very special child. So strong, large, and deformed that only his mother's love could protect him from being hunted like a monster. I'm talking about the real story that inspired the famous Friday the 13th movie and gave life to one of the most iconic characters in cinema. Do you want to know what the real story of the 1937 massacre that forced summer camps to be cancelled for a decade is? Hey, I know you do want to. So let me introduce you to Benjamin Harris, whose brutality inspired the creation of Jason and left a legacy of horror. You already know I promise I won't let you down because I am the documentarian and this is... Jason Voorhees. The real story? In 1980, Friday premiered. A group of hormonal teenagers arrives at Crystal Lake with the typical combination of party spirit, zero survival instinct, and an astonishing ability to ignore local legends about brutal murders. As expected, they start to disappear one by one in the bloodiest ways possible. Courtesy of Pamela Burgess, the vengeful mother of Jason. But in the end, the real protagonist emerges, Jason Burgess, a deformed boy who supposedly drowned. But surprise, he was more alive than ever and ready to become the horror icon of the next 4 decades. With his hockey mask, which he didn't even use until the 3rd movie, and his inseparable machete, Jason became a worldwide phenomenon. And well deserved, he has it, but... the real story is even better. It was the year 1922 and on the outskirts of Augurah Hills. The young Queen Iris, a beautiful 19-year-old woman with a past plagued by mental disorders, was suffering the loneliness of being rejected by the people. So she called a witch and midwife from the mountains to help her. Why? Because her son Benjamin was scratching to be born. The screams of pain cut through the distant laughter of fortunate young people enjoying the waters of the newly inaugurated Malibu Lake. The witch was 80 years old and had 70 years of experience in assisting complicated births. However, when Reina gave birth to Benjamin, the old woman refused to hold him. She screamed Walichu, Walichu twice and walked away without looking back. Reina pleaded, "Don't leave me, damn it! Come back and untie my legs!" The witch turned her head to the side, covering her view with her hand, and replied, "That should not live, do not feed it, and tomorrow it will stop screaming." Reina managed to untie herself and reach the baby. She put it on top of her, and when she saw it, it just seemed beautiful to her. Today it is thought that the young mother had numerous psychotic outbreaks in her adolescence and was no longer afraid of anything. Others think it was motherly love. Do you understand that instant connection that binds a mother to her child with steel chains? Regardless if they were born a happy, chubby baby with rosy cheeks and clear gaze, or if they were born like poor Benjamin, who had one leg 3 times thicker than the other, heavy and muscular arms, and the face. Well, let's say he had one huge eye and another very small one, and not at the same height. The wide nose went from ear to ear, and in that newborn's mouth there were already 8 long and sharp teeth. In a fit of rage, he immediately used them to mutilate Reina's nipple as soon as it was within his reach. Poor mother, she was bloody in pain and holding a baby that looked more like a huge, disfigured rabid puma. Despite everything, the girl smiled at him until she heard the hysterical screams of two blonde campers, teenagers and their boyfriends who had looked out the window, attracted by the screams of childbirth. Reina was crazy and quite so, but she wasn't stupid. She knew she had to hide it. However, luck was on her side. On the third day, a young man with a thick, curled mustache that made him look funny knocked on her door. And he said, "Mrs. Reina, if you open the door, I have an offer for you that will change that baby's life. That, if the rumors are true, was born to succeed. You'll see. My name is Simon Sin, and I have a company of oddities of strange people. We are like a big family that travels from town to town doing our acts and earning our bread as God commands." Reina opened the door, and without listening to the offer, she hugged him, kissed him on the mouth, and asked him to come in to help them pack. Simon saw that there was something standing on the bed, under the sheets, and it was breathing strangely. With concern, he approached. With fear, he stopped and politely asked the mother if he could pull back the white sheet to uncover it. Reina replied, "Go ahead. That's Benjamin." "But would I keep a little distance from you?" "Better put the chair in front of your body. That's why I cover it." He stays calm if his face is covered. His strength is amazing. And he's only 3 days old. The young man heeded, took the bench and placed it between the child and himself and discovered it. And there it was. The little monster. It was leaning on its thick leg as if it was about to take a leap, staring at him and growling. It pounced on him like a lion, but Reina covered him and then it immediately calmed down. "God of all heavens!" Simon exclaimed and almost fainted from the shock, but he stepped back and composed himself, looked at Reina and said with a smile, "We're going to make a success." That morning of 1922, they left the house and only returned in 1937. The years at the freak show had been the best of his life. But Simon Sin died and his widow chose to dissolve the company. Reina had the best memories left. Not only did she learn to live with Benjamin's peculiarities, but they discovered that all his beastly temperament was tamed with a simple mask. In fact, he could never be shown without it because behind that wooden face with holes that made him look much better, the boy would stay calm, not bothering anyone unless they messed with him. In addition to those happy experiences, the beautiful queen used to give her love to many of the phenomena. And he had another daughter named Tanya, who was now 10 years old. Just by looking at her, everyone said there was no doubt about who the father was. Girl was almost identical to the one they presented as the Beast of the Congo. The same elongated head, the same arms that brushed the ground. Little Tanya was the joy of the fair and the love of her mother and her brother Benjamin. However, upon returning to the outskirts of Augurah Hills, they noticed that things had changed. Let me tell you. Do you remember the old witch? The damn woman had already died, but she left a prophecy and several rumors scattered everywhere. She said she had seen death arrive with a queen, that her return would be the end of the town. And to make matters worse, Malibu Lake was already a main attraction in the area, and no one wanted to be a phenomenon that would scare away the beautiful campers who filled the place to enjoy nature. They sent the sheriff and his deputy to convince, by hook or by crook, the queen to sell her property and get out of there. She let them in immediately, greeted them with a kiss on the mouth, and listened to the proposal and accepted without hesitation. With that money, she planned to go to a community in the desert where everyone was welcome and contributed a little cash to the cause. So everything is settled, but Tanya showed up. She had a piece of chicken in that kind of claw, and the young officer was terrified when he saw her and pulled out the weapon. Reina asked him nicely to put it away. Without raising her voice, she said, "Officer Midia, you are very young, handsome, and it would be a shame if something happened to you, because you see, my children Tanya is the good and beautiful one." The officer, still terrified and trembling, begged the girl not to come closer. Reina asked him to please lower his voice, that the screams were going to wake up Benjamin. But the little deformed one made a quick movement and the shot deafened everyone in the house. And when everything calmed down, they saw Tanya's bloody body, but it wasn't on the floor. It was 2 meters high. And that's when they saw it. Someone huge was holding Tanya's body. Benjamin! He was holding his little sister's corpse in his arms. The mask made him look less threatening, but his enormous size and 200 kilos of muscle made them tremble. Reina was screaming and clutching her head. "No, no, my Tanya, no." Oh, Benjamin left the girl in her arms. He kept staring at the police officers. He began to breathe heavily in an almost supernatural way. The young officer tried to run, but he didn't get very far. With just 2 steps, he caught him and pressed his head against the wall until the blood began to stain it. Then he used its rough texture as a kind of grater, and scraping it from one side to the other, he disfigured his face as if it were a cheese against the grater. When the teeth finished falling, he threw him to the ground and then stepped on the rest of his head. The sheriff. He shot him once in the chest. It made him step back, but Benjamin composed himself and tried to take off the mask. But his mom yelled at him to please not do it. He obeyed and moved forward, and the second shot made everything worse because it hit him directly in the eye. Yes, it went right into the center of the right eye of Reina. The beautiful mother, she had intervened and died. Benjamin took the policeman's hand that was holding his gun and, breaking every bone, kept him gripped. While looking for something sharp, in the kitchen he found an old, rusty and dull machete on a piece of furniture. The policeman was screaming and begging, saying, "Please, I was just doing my job. The town changed and we live off them. Nobody wants the campers to leave, please." Benjamin needed 2 blows to split the sheriff in half and only one to separate his head. With his mask, the machete, and the bodies of his beloved little sister and mother in his arms, he walked peacefully towards the desert. But 2 shots passed close to his head. Then he went back into the house. He peeked out a window and saw that outside more than 20 men with rifles and torches were arriving. One of them shouted, "Whatever you are, come out or we will open fire." Since there was no response, they riddled the house with bullets. Benjamin didn't know what to do. Since he was born, the only command from his mother that was never questioned was always the same. You can't take off the mask. He remembered when he disobeyed at 10 years old, how much it had upset her. At that moment he said, "How many times do I have to repeat it? No matter what happens, you know you should have your face covered. Does that reassure you? Please, Benjamin, what fault did those soldiers have? Do you remember what you did to them? Oh, when you take off the mask, you're not even human anymore. Never do it again." But now, his mother had died and Benjamin was angry. The last thing that was heard before the screams of pain was the voice of one of those 20 armed men. That when he saw Benjamin's face without the mask, he said, "My God, what is that? Save us, my God." It took 2 months to finish identifying the bodies. Malibu Lake was closed for 10 years. 6 campers were also brutally murdered. Everyone blamed the beast of the lake. They said it didn't want them there. In 1947, they found Benjamin's body under the water, right where they were looking for it. A couple ignored the warnings and rode at night. Benjamin quietly followed them along the shore until they approached the dock and he tried to catch them. But the wood couldn't bear the weight and, breaking under their feet, let them fall into the water. And our protagonist had never learned to swim. His body, mask and all, was displayed in a private collection for years. Until in 2024, some idiot thought it was a good idea to steal the real Jason's mask, and he did. It seems it's not a lie. Something activates in him without the mask. And well, the remains of the thief's body, the giant blood trails leaving the building. Everything matches. Benjamin is back and he could be anywhere, even watching you. Yes, you. At this very moment. Thank you. If you would like me to send greetings at the end of the videos, belong to an exclusive Telegram group for channel members and receive these and other benefits. Become a member of the channel. Join if you dare. Luciano Ezequiel Rossi Berenice G. Carol Ramos Cruz. Thank you. Thank you for watching the video. Ledger Tamara Naxu. Eliana Castaneda. Jess. Lili Montes. Milagros Rutherford. Nicolás Flores. Sol Jax. Paulina Cabrera Heredia, Jimena Miguel Urbina, Sara Marrazo Franco, Mancilla, Wings Omega 40 Fabiana, Iesa Miguel Ángel Luis Batista Mendoza, Señoritati Ernesto P, Jonathan Miguel Mortarotti, Polbol, Brenda Lorenzo Varchatzikin, Chris, Alexander Ana, María Morín, The Entertainment, Freddy Villalobos, Matías Gabriel, Riquelme Fernández, Carlos Chidi, Pierre Iván Ramés del Real Big One, Energy Detective, Germán Five Virgen El Chuta, María Raquel Pérez, Miguel Troncos, Five Inela Pallecillo, E.S. Tomás Five, Wolf Villarroel Friepa, Adán Rossi, María Félix Martínez, Héctor Bautista, Edu Ochendas, Rosario Guisache, Amalia Contreras, Patrick Rosas, Alan García, Lucas, Munoz Gloria, Regia Verónica, Pereira Meleonora, Rosy Farías, Novia Cantú, Brian Barbe, Leonor y Julio Vidal, radiestesista.